Why Ireland is the most pro-Palestinian nation in Europe. CNN, Ireland has become the latest nation to say it will intervene in the genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, in a reflection of the country's long-standing position of solidarity with the Palestinian cause. Ireland announced this week it would file its intervention, adding to growing international pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu's government to dial back its devastating assault on Gaza and end severe restrictions on the food aid, pushing Palestinians toward the famine. In a speech on Wednesday, Irish Foreign Minister Michel Martin said that both the Hamas October 7 attack in Israel and Israel's war in Gaza represented its blatant violation of international law on the mass scale. The case was brought to the ICJ by South Africa, and in the initial ruling in January, the court ordered Israel to take all measures within its power to prevent genocidal act in Gaza, but stopped short of causing it of genocide. According to report, the island is expected to include in its intervention the argument that Israel's blocking of food aid to Gaza could be considered an act of genocide, a shared colonial experience. Ireland's position on the Israel-Hamas conflict has made it the outlier among European governments. Joe Lawler, who leads the Irish Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, said there was deep empathy and sympathy in Ireland with the Palestinian people. That solidarity is largely born out of a shared experience of subjugation by the occupying state. The island nation was under English and then British rule for more than 800 years after Anglo-Norman invaders seized huge stretches of land from the native Irish in the 12th century. Ireland was Britain's oldest colony, said Jane O'Meara, a history professor at Trinity College Dublin, pointing out that Ireland was unlike other Western European states, many of which are themselves imperial powers. But like Palestine, um, each island had a direct and sustained experience of imperialism. She said that shared colonial experience between the Irish and Palestinians has undoubtedly shaped how people from Ireland engage with post-colonial conflict. While under British control, Ireland was often subjected to violent and discriminatory rule from London, most infamously with the Great Potato Famine in the 1840s, during which roughly 1 million people are estimated to have died from hunger after the potato crop repeatedly failed. The failure of the British government to adequately help the starving population forced over 1 million more than to emigrate. Leo Varadkar, who recently resigned as Prime Minister of Ireland, alluded to that during St. Patrick's Day commemorations at the White House this month, when he drew parallels between the Irish and the Palestinian experience. Leaders often ask me why the Irish have such empathy for the Palestinian people, and the answer is simple. We see our history in their eyes. Varadkar said, a story of displacement, of dispossession, national identity questioned or denied, forced emigration, discrimination, and how now hunger. Gillan Wanba Abdal Majid, a Palestinian ambassador to Ireland, says Irish support comes from a history of a shared experience. The historical background that the Irish people themselves endured, they know exactly what meaning of occupation, colonization, oppression, dispossession, she told CNN. The Irish know how the Palestinians feel when now we reach this degree of hunger. NGOs and top international human rights officials have warned that Israel's restrictions on the entry of food aid will tip Gaza into famine. This month, the UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk said the practice may amount to using starvation as the weapon of war. After many failed attempts to regain its sovereignty, both violent and peaceful, Ireland was partitioned by the British in 1921. Part of the province of Ulster in the north of the Iceland. Ireland remained in the United Kingdom as Northern Ireland. The remaining territory left the Union a year later, becoming known as the Irish Free State and later the Republic of Ireland. Olmeya contends that Ireland provided the template for partition in historic Palestine in 1948. A man walks past graffiti reading Free Palestine amid the ongoing conflict between Israel and the Palestinian Islamist group Hamas in Dublin, Ireland, November 15. Both the partitions were created largely along religious lines. Ulster was famously referred to as the Protestant state for the Protestant people. After its inception in 1921, in 1917, the British government declared there should be a national home for the Jewish people within historic Palestine. The United Nations presented a plan in 1947 to partition the land between Arabs and Jewish, which the Palestinians rejected. Leonard Storr, the first British governor of Jerusalem, described the plan for the Jewish homeland in Palestine as the little loyal Jewish Ulster in the sea of potentially hostile Arabism. Decades later, it was the Israeli occupation of the remainder of historic Palestine from 1967 onward that consolidated Irish political and popular opinion behind the Palestinian cause. Also, and the historian Sean Garnon told CNN, during and after the 30 years of sectarian violence in Northern Ireland, known as the Troubles, the Palestinians' struggle for liberation was seen by each resident through the prism of its own conflict. Republican Irish nationalists campaigning to split from the UK generally sympathized with the Palestinians. British loyalists and the Unionists in Northern Ireland typically sided with Israel. In 1980, the Republic of Ireland became the first European Union member to declare a need for the independent Palestinian state and has since pushed for the two-state solution. The Irish government described peace in the Middle East as the key foreign policy priority and blames Israeli policies for making peace more and more difficult to achieve. Palestinians a domestic issue in Ireland. Ireland consistently criticized the Israeli policies in the week West Bank and Gaza before the Hamas attacks on October 7th, and since then, politicians and the public have expressed concern over what has been largely viewed as the heavy-handed Israeli response. Simon Harris, the country's new prime minister, is unlikely to take a softer stance. Ireland's youngest ever leader highlighted the impact of the war on children in the speech to Parliament in November, remarking, "You cannot build peace on the mass graves of children." Israel has not shied away from firing back at Ireland. Its heritage minister, Amihai Eliyahu, said in November that Palestinians in Gaza can go to island or desert, among other incendiary comments that Netanyahu has tried to distance himself from. In February, Israel's ambassador to Ireland, Dana Orlich, said in an interview with the radio station Newstalk, said that she only heard a one-sided view portraying Israel as the only villain. When Emily Hand, the Irish Israeli girl, was released by Hamas from after being held hostage for 50 days, followed Carr's subsequent post on X saying she has been lost caused an uproar in Israel. The Irish ambassador was summoned to the Israeli Foreign Ministry with the Foreign Ministry Eli Cohen accusing Baradkar of losing his moral compass and needing a reality check. Opposition parties in this Ireland have taken an even stronger stance than the government, particularly Sinn Féin, a party that supports the reunification of Ireland and is active on both sides of the border. Its leader, Mary Lou MacDonald, has said Gaza cannot become the graveyard of international law and has at times called for the Israeli ambassador to be expelled. Israel is one of the few countries where Palestine and Palestinian issues on the conflict is very much a domestic political issue. Matt Carty, Sinn Féin's spokesperson on foreign affairs and defense, told CNN, there has been an amount of pressure being put on the Irish government to be, in the first instance, very strong in its rhetoric. A galvanized population. Public support for the Palestinians has been put on display during nationwide demonstrations that has been held in cities and towns across the island since the Gaza war began. Sometimes in all the roads in all the cities, I see the Palestinian flag, said Abdar Mazid, ambassador. It's something that tells Palestinians you are not alone in this world. There are other people in this world who know how you are suffering. Lawler, from the Irish Palestine Solidarity Campaign, has participated in demonstrations for the past 25 weeks in either her home city of Limerick or the capital Dublin. What we are seeing in Gaza has really mobilized the people to an extent I have never seen, she said. We are a population that also had a famine imposed on us by the colonizing power. So I think that's very resonant with the people here. A January Amnesty International poll showed that 71% of people in Ireland believed the Palestinians were living under a apartheid regime, while a poll in the Irish Times in February showed that 62% believed Israel's attacks on Gaza were not justified. For activists like Lola and the opposition Sinn Féin, the Irish government's intervention at the ICJ was long overdue. Our experience of the peace process and our experience of the importance of international solidarity and the interventions has made us acutely aware that this isn't something we can just sit back and watch on our TV screens, said Carty. I don't think it is appropriate that a country like Ireland would have diplomatic relations with the State of Israel, as it would with other states that aren't in gross violation of international law, he added, and I think it would be a meaningful measure that the Irish government could take to expel the Israeli ambassador until the onslaught on Gaza is ended.